People have no idea that this man just beat me on the bus.
My daughter came home, she was 98 pounds. When she left to be with him, she was 125.
My brother, but he do have a problem.
I know the type of monster he is.
People who once stood close to R.Kelly have long painted him as dangerous, even monstrous. And now he's gone and dropped a prison video that's so disturbing, it's reopening old scars and leaving his victims shaken to their core. This isn't just another headline. This is Kelly's darkest recording yet, and it's got everybody talking. R.Kelly, the man once crowned the king of R&B, is now sitting on a 31-year sentence inside the Federal Correctional Institution in Butner, North Carolina. We're talking racketeering, trafficking, mistreatment, and even production of child material. The kind of charges that show just how deep this nightmare runs. But here's where things really twist. This recording isn't some random outburst. No, this meltdown was years in the making. There were plenty of red flags if people had paid closer attention. Take it back to 2019, when Kelly went off in that explosive sit-down with Gayle King. That interview was wild, almost like a trailer for the chaos we're watching unfold in these prison tapes. Back then, you could already see it. The cracks in his mask, the paranoia creeping through every word.
All of them. Got little girls trapped in the basement, helicopters over my house, trying to rescue someone that doesn't need rescuing because they're not in my house, handcuffing people, starving people. I have a harem, a cult. I don't even really know what a cult is, but I know I don't have.
He wasn't just upset. He was unraveling right there on national TV. And now, years later, the same paranoia, the same desperation is spilling out through his phone calls from behind bars. Kelly was cracking under the pressure even then, and when Gayle pressed him on those ugly allegations, his composure completely snapped. But the moment King started dropping names, Kelly straight up lost it. When those accusations piled up, his reaction spiraled into full denial and panic, and that panic shows up again in the prison recordings. He snapped with lines like, "They are lying on me," and that's the key beat. When King pressed him about multiple women telling similar stories, Kelly's comeback exposed the same manipulative vibes we're hearing now behind bars. The playbook of deflect, gaslight, and pivot into victim mode. The scariest part? Kelly's breakdown on that couch gave us a preview of the mental collapse we're hearing in 2025 recordings. What felt dramatic then now reads like prophecy. When Kelly told Gayle King, "I'm fighting for my life," he wasn't just talking legal heat. He was foreshadowing the real fear in his voice today. That line hits way harder now, and you can feel it echo in his newer rants. Now he's on new tracks talking wild, claiming people trying to poison him and take him out in prison.
Everybody?
If you really look at that documentary, which I'm sure you have,
I have.
Everybody said something bad about me. Nobody said nothing good. They was describing Lucifer. I'm not Lucifer. I'm a man. I make mistakes, but I'm not a devil. And by no means am I.
Like he was prepped for the isolation and paranoia he's living through. It's like he'd already been rehearsing this survival script in public. And when Gayle pushed him about holding people against their will, he clapped back with even messier answers. Evasive, hostile, and oddly rehearsed.
They are lying.
The pattern's clear. Deny, flip the script, and threaten the teller. And that strategy is playing out loud from behind bars. That camera on me moment was pure chaos. Kelly knew exactly how to flip the spotlight and turn the heat into a performance. It was a show, plain and simple, and the same kind of calculated tricks are bleeding straight into his prison tapes today. These clips feel staged to tug at sympathy, maybe even tilt the narrative in his favor. But here's the difference. Fast forward to 2025, and that manipulation game is cranked all the way up. Now it's fueled by the desperation of a man who knows deep down he's not walking out free. All year long, Kelly's been allegedly cutting tracks and sliding cryptic messages through prison phone calls. And somehow these bits get chopped up and blasted online. But don't get it twisted. These ain't the usual jailhouse freestyles dudes drop to keep their rep alive. No, these recordings are straight chilling. He's ranting about death, paranoia, poison, and claiming everyone's plotting to take him out. That's why fans say listening feels more like eavesdropping on a breakdown than vibing to a song. Things really blew up back in March 2025. when Kelly jumped into a viral social media challenge by remixing Chris Brown's Residuals, all through a prison phone line. Usually when artists hop on a challenge, it's about proving they still got the shine, the vocals, the swag. But Kelly's twist? It landed way darker, heavy with paranoia and doom. And what's even more shocking is the sound of his voice. The shift from how he sounded back then to how he sounds in these tapes is like night and day. That Gayle King sit-down on CBS was wild, and you could feel the pressure cooker ready to pop. The desperation that flashed there kept showing up again in a HuffPost live clip that went sideways, proving the pattern was real. Every time an interviewer pushed on Kelly's lyrics, he went defensive and snatched control back like he couldn't stand being questioned. That same move, deflect, attack, flip the script, is the energy coming through in his prison recordings, but now it's soaked in real fear and isolation. In lockup, that old victim play turned darker and rawer. Clips spread on TikTok and Instagram of Kelly asking, "Who's getting all my checks?" about lost royalties. But it wasn't just the words. It was that ragged jail phone tone that split people down the middle. Some felt sad, others straight up creeped out. That was only round one of a scary drop-off. By May 2025, a YouTube track called "They Trying to Poison Me in Jail" popped off.
That defies logic to me.
Right. Until you hear the explanation. You can start a rumor on a guy like me or a celebrity just like that. All you have to do is push a button on your phone and say, "So-and-so did this to me. R.Kelly did."
And it sounded haunted, pitched like a fragile confession, with Kelly accusing prison staff of trying to poison him. The vibe was heavy and paranoid, not musical flexing. As summer rolled in, the releases got colder and more desperate. By June 2025, multiple tracks were out with titles that'd make anyone's skin crawl, all leaning into the same theme of betrayal, danger, and isolation. The whole rollout felt less like artistry and more like a man broadcasting his unraveling for the world to hear. What used to be public bluster has mutated into something darker behind bars, and these recordings prove the line between performance and panic has disappeared. The clips are raw, eerie, and they leave listeners wondering how much of this is a ploy and how much is pure fear. "They're dosing me to death. I'm not safe in prison," I heard the guard say. "Kill him." That's the kind of stuff Kelly was spilling. And it didn't sound like music anymore. It sounded like a man screaming for help. These weren't tracks for fans. They were SOS signals from someone convinced he was about to get taken out. He even dropped lines like, "I can smell death," and hearing that through a crackly prison call hit different. The spiral is crystal clear. Back in 2019, during those wild interviews with Gayle King, Kelly was ranting about being buried alive and fighting for his life. Fast forward to 2025, and those words feel terrifyingly literal. The man who once packed arenas and lived like royalty is now reduced to shaky phone calls from a cold cell, convinced every breath could be his last. And here's the kicker. It's not just the disturbing lyrics.
Not me, y'all. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. I gave y'all 30 years of my career.
Robert.
30 years of my career. Y'all trying to kill me. You killing me, man. This is not about music. I'm trying to have a relationship with my kids, and I can't do it. Y'all just don't want to believe it.
It's what they reveal about his headspace. Every single recording carries the same themes: death, poison, paranoia, and sheer terror. Now the question is, are these fears based on something real, or are we just watching a full-on mental breakdown unravel in real time? Either way, it raises serious questions about prison reform, mental health, and how high-profile inmates are really treated. The timing made it even messier. These releases hit the internet just as his legal team filed court docs on June 10th, demanding early release and claiming there was a legit plot by prison staff to kill him. The playbook looks familiar. Kelly leaning on media buzz and public sympathy to shift the pressure onto the courts, just like he tried back before trial. Now here's where it really gets wild. Federal prisons don't play about recording devices. That stuff is banned hard. So how is Kelly's voice leaking out? Simple. These ain't polished studio cuts. They're raw prison phone calls that outsiders flip with AI visuals, stock jail footage, and edits to make them look like official music videos. It's basically an underground pipeline designed to keep R.Kelly's voice alive on the streets. And that sparked the biggest question. Are these recordings legit or fake? Some are clearly AI generated. One viral music video was proven to be 100% artificial. But others? Yeah, those are real. One of the most chilling came in March 2025, when Kelly phoned into a podcast called Inmate Tea with ANP. You could hear that scratchy, metallic prison line quality as he performed his 1998 hit, When a Woman's Fed Up. And it was eerie. Think about it. The same man who once sold out arenas reduced to crooning through a jail phone for a tiny podcast audience. And the emotion? Raw. The context made it hit 10 times harder. Compare that broken voice to the cocky Kelly from his HuffPost sit-down when he stormed off trying to look untouchable. That defiance is gone. The man calling in from federal prison sounds shattered, lonely, terrified, and stripped of every ounce of bravado. And as 2025 kept rolling, the leaks only grew darker and more desperate. The latest drop, uploaded in August 2025, was a track titled It's August and Still in Prison Again, produced by Lil R3 Vibe. This wasn't a flex, it was a ballad dripping with regret, basically a diary entry in song form, hammering home the reality that no legal appeal, no emergency motion has set him free. R.Kelly is still locked up with nearly zero shot at early release, and when you rewind to those 2019 interviews, they hit like a warning we all missed. When he told Gayle King he felt buried alive, he was basically predicting his future. And that moment where he broke down crying about fighting for my life, that's the exact life or death reality he now swears he's battling inside federal prison walls. So let's get real. What's life like for R. Kelly in the feds? Because his daily grind explains why these recordings are so eerie. This is a man who went from global superstar, running stages, selling millions, dripping in fame, to a federal inmate stripped of control, stuck in the monotony and paranoia of prison life. It's one of the harshest, most dramatic falls from grace in R&B and hip-hop history. Kelly's been sitting in Federal Correctional Institution Butner Medium I since April 2023. This spot in North Carolina is medium security but has medical facilities, and it's infamous for housing big names. Even Bernie Madoff once did time there. For Kelly, who bounced through Chicago's MCC and a few other joints before landing here, Butner is likely where he'll spend the rest of his years. And the timeline? Ugly. Records list his projected release as December 21st, 2045, if he keeps good behavior. That means Kelly would walk out at 78 years old. Think about that. The self-proclaimed king of R&B, who once strutted across the world stage, now staring down 2 more decades of prison chow, controlled movements, and endless surveillance. Kelly's reality now is ruled by restrictions most people couldn't even imagine. And for someone who once lived without limits, it's brutal. As a convicted sex offender, he's almost certainly kept in protective custody to dodge threats from the general prison population. That means 22 to 23 hours locked in a cell every single day, with barely any human contact. His so-called recreation often boils down to one lonely hour, sometimes completely by himself. Forget the usual prison routines. No group church services, no education programs, no rec leagues. Those doors stay shut to him. And it gets darker. Court filings show Kelly's even been shoved into solitary confinement at times, supposedly for his own safety. That's not just restrictive, that's extreme isolation, where even the tiny privileges of protective custody get stripped away. Experts call it psychological torture, and they're not exaggerating. This stuff can break a person's mind over time. And here's the wild part. The fact he keeps getting cycled in and out of solitary tells us these aren't just paranoid delusions he's spinning in those recordings. The threats are real enough that prison officials are treating them like serious security risks. That changes the whole conversation. It's not just fear talking, it's survival mode. For a man who once thrived on the roar of packed arenas, who lived off the rush of connecting with thousands at once, this silence is deadly. The solitary cell flips his whole identity on its head. From superstars soaking in endless attention to a forgotten inmate trapped in crushing quiet, it's a total reversal of everything that once defined him.
Been assassinated. I have been buried alive. But I'm alive.
Prison does provide medical care, at least on paper, but Kelly's lawyers say otherwise. They've claimed he's getting inadequate treatment, even hinting at an incurable disease in a 2025 update. The details are locked down under medical privacy laws. But that only fuels speculation about what he's really battling behind bars. What makes his situation extra dangerous is where he stands in the prison food chain. Convicted sex offenders, especially those tied to crimes against children, are at the absolute bottom of prison society. Inmate slang brands them chomos or skinners, and in prison hierarchy that's lower than murderers, lower than drug lords, they're despised across the board. And that label brings heat, targeted attacks, extortion, humiliation, constant isolation. The unwritten street code says hurting kids is unforgivable, and even the hardest criminals won't give those offenders a pass. History proves it too. Jeffrey Dahmer was killed in prison back in 1994. Jared Fogle got beat down in 2016. The danger is real, and it never stops. For Kelly, the threat is daily. His high-profile status just paints a bigger target on his back. The constant fear of being jumped, poisoned, or extorted has clearly eaten away at his mental state. And it's written all over those paranoid 2025 recordings. His attorneys keep hammering this in court, pointing to alleged plots against him, including threats tied to white supremacist gangs like the Aryan Brotherhood, and even whispers of dirty prison staff being in on it. That combination of enemies inside and outside the system makes Kelly's reality one of the most dangerous situations a celebrity inmate could ever face. The way R.Kelly is managing to record and release music from behind bars is both wild and tragic, showing his hustle, but also just how boxed in his world has become. Reports say he's written enough material for 25 albums in just his first 3 years locked up. But here's the catch. Federal inmates don't get real studios. His only outlet is the monitored phone system, and that's how these tracks are sneaking out. Think about the irony. The same guy who once had access to million-dollar studios, the best engineers, and endless resources is now forced to spit his lyrics through the same phone line inmates use to call their moms or lawyers. And every single word is recorded, flagged, and possibly usable against him in future cases. It's art under surveillance, and it makes every line carry double weight. One of the darkest examples was his June 2025 joint I Heard the Guards Say Kill Him.
Stupid would
Never
never
held
for
anybody.
R.Kelly, with all I've been through in my way past, to hold somebody, let alone 4, 5, 6, 50, you said. Why, how stupid would I be to do that?
I didn't say you
That's
were holding.
stupid, guys.
I didn't.
Is this cap?
Where he flat out suggests prison staff are plotting on him. That's not just paranoia. That's him putting his fears into permanent record, knowing those words might echo way beyond the call. Then there's the money grind. Kelly's finances are wrecked. His royalties, the same ones that kept checks flowing from his decades in the game, are being garnished to pay debts and restitution to victims. That means the passive income he once bragged about is basically gone. Add to that the insane costs of top-tier legal defense and even basic commissary items, and you've got a superstar under maximum pressure. It's a picture of total reversal. The king of R&B reduced to begging a phone line for survival while watching his empire drain away. Photos snapped in February 2025 showed Kelly in standard prison blues, looking older but still composed. But don't let the still shots fool you. What the camera can't capture is the crushing mental toll of fear, paranoia, and isolation eating away at a man who once strutted on stage as one of music's most commanding performers. By June 2025, things got darker. Reports say Kelly was tossed into solitary and pumped with heavy meds by staff. So heavy he overdosed and had to be rushed to a hospital in Durham, North Carolina, where he stayed for days. His lawyers didn't mince words, calling it a straight-up attempt on his life. They even filed court docs alleging a murder plot with both inmates and dirty staff tied in. The incident went down June 13th when Kelly collapsed and was hospitalized. According to his team, hospital staff pushed for continued care.
If the next question is something negative out of your mouth, with all due respect, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
But the prison shipped him right back, denying treatment. That decision alone sparked outrage, fueling claims that his health and safety aren't being protected, but actively put at risk. Now here's the messy part. Was this genuine malpractice, a deliberate assassination attempt, or just the tragic fallout of Kelly's unstable mental health clashing with prison staff? His lawyers paint it as evidence of systemic bias and deliberate endangerment, while prosecutors and officials keep quiet, hiding behind ongoing litigation. And that silence, it only fuels the mystery and fear surrounding Kelly's life behind bars. He's isolated in more ways than one, not just cut off from inmates, but also from his own family. Even his ex-wife, r.kelly, and their kids say they don't visit him, leaving him with no real support system on the outside. A superstar once surrounded by crowds now has nobody in his corner. At this point, Kelly's only real human contact comes from his lawyers, prison staff, and the rare monitored phone call. Even the little perks he gets, like a prison tablet for messaging or watching videos, come with heavy restrictions and long delays. Nothing is private. Every move is tracked, every word recorded, every interaction controlled by someone else. For a man who once dictated everything around him, with entire teams catering to his every demand, this total loss of control is a crushing reality check. The superstar who once strutted like royalty now lives under lockstep rules, reduced to inmate number 90,888. It's not just a fall from grace, it's a whole empire shattered. So let's rewind and really break down how Robert Sylvester Kelly went from being the self-proclaimed king of R&B to a federal prisoner. Because this saga isn't just about one man's downfall.
I would have to say this. I did not come here to get interrogated. I didn't come here for a deposition. You know what a deposition?
It's about how the justice system finally cornered someone who believed he was untouchable. After decades of dodging cases and buying silence, the walls finally closed in, leading to one of the most sweeping takedowns in R&B and hip-hop history. And the roots of Kelly's legal troubles run deep, all the way back to the 1990s. Allegations of misconduct followed him his whole career, with red flags that fans and the industry ignored for years. The first huge one? 1994. Kelly, at 27, illegally married 15-year-old singer Aaliyah using falsified documents. That wasn't just scandalous. It was the moment the world should have seen what was coming. That marriage to Aaliyah got annulled in 1995, but it left a permanent stain. And more importantly, it set the pattern for the next 3 decades of accusations that would define R.Kelly's downfall. It wasn't just a bad decision. It was the first glimpse of a cycle that kept repeating again and again.
The deposition. This is not about R.Kelly. This is not about music. This is not about someone who works hard on his music, who has an album out. This is about trying to interrogate me, and this is about, disrespect.
By 1996, the pattern came roaring back. Tiffany Hawkins filed a lawsuit claiming she had a sexual relationship with Kelly starting in 1991, when she was just 15 and he was 24. And it didn't stop there. The suit accused him of coercing her into group encounters involving other underage girls, painting a picture of systemic exploitation, not just a single misstep. Kelly's response? Pay her off. The case settled in 1998 for $250,000, effectively buying silence. And that became his trademark move: hush money over accountability. Case after case, he used cash as a shield, dodging real consequences while the allegations piled higher. Then in 2002 came the scandal that exploded into the mainstream.
And here looking in the mirror, saying damn to myself, I should have known the day would come. She would find somebody else. And all the things I took her through, I shouldn't have lasted this long. Now I'm at this telephone booth, literally, calling Tyrone.
The infamous tape allegedly showing Kelly urinating on and having sex with a 14-year-old girl. It was clear enough to bring child pornography charges in Chicago, and the evidence was jaw-dropping. Yet, in 2008, Kelly walked free after the victim refused to testify. And here's the chilling part. This wasn't about weak evidence. Multiple witnesses identified both Kelly and the underage girl in that tape. But the justice system buckled under the weight of intimidation and shame, the same forces that kept victims from speaking out for years. Kelly's acquittal wasn't proof of innocence. It was proof of how easily power and fear can twist the outcome of justice. That 2008 acquittal might have looked like a win for Kelly at the time, but in reality, it was just a pause, a temporary reprieve that wouldn't hold. The same tape that once got brushed aside came back years later as central evidence in his 2022 Chicago conviction. What started as isolated cases of misconduct evolved into something way bigger, a sweeping federal racketeering case that painted Kelly as the head of a full-blown criminal enterprise. The turning point came with the rise of the #MeToo movement and the release of the explosive 2019 docuseries Surviving R.Kelly. That series didn't just bring forward a handful of claims, it gave over 20 women the platform to speak their truth. Suddenly, the world wasn't hearing rumors or reading court documents. They were watching real women share chillingly consistent stories of grooming, isolation, manipulation, and abuse. The docuseries was a cultural earthquake.
Look, I'm having a great time. I'm finna go visit some friends. I'm finna do some more business. I'm finna have a great time. I didn't come here for you to spoil that.
It humanized the allegations, stripped away excuses, and exposed Kelly's actions as part of a calculated system, not random scandals. The consistency across all those testimonies painted a picture of an operation designed to target, control, and exploit vulnerable young women. Federal investigators couldn't ignore it any longer. The FBI and Homeland Security launched deep probes, and for the first time, Kelly wasn't treated like a superstar making mistakes. He was pursued like the ringleader of organized crime. That shift completely flipped the game, letting prosecutors connect decades of abuse into a single, undeniable pattern. By 2019, the hammer dropped. Kelly was arrested in Illinois on 10 counts of aggravated criminal abuse, then hit with federal racketeering and trafficking charges in New York that July. Chicago prosecutors doubled down with more federal charges for child exploitation and obstruction. The empire was officially crumbling, and this time, there was no escape hatch. The New York federal trial kicked off in August 2021 and stretched 6 intense weeks, laying bare the full scope of Kelly's alleged criminal empire. Prosecutors didn't just paint him as a fallen star. They branded him the mastermind of a criminal enterprise under RICO, accusing him of recruiting, controlling, and abusing women and girls for decades. More than 45 witnesses took the stand, including 11 accusers, and their testimony was devastating. They described strict rules Kelly forced them to follow, like calling him daddy and obeying bizarre demands that stripped them of autonomy. This wasn't hearsay. Prosecutors rolled out videos, contracts, and even NDAS to prove it. One former employee dropped a bombshell, admitting he bribed an Illinois official to greenlight Kelly's illegal marriage to Aaliyah when she was just 15. What unfolded in court went way beyond individual acts of abuse. The case revealed a sophisticated machine built to recruit, isolate, and exploit vulnerable young women under the guise of fame and opportunity. And on September 27, 2021, the verdict came crashing down.
Daddy, I need to use the restroom. No,
Daddy.
it's fine. Yes, we were required to call him Daddy.
Guilty on all 9 counts, including 1 racketeering charge and 8 Mann Act violations for transporting women across state lines for sex. The conviction wasn't just a win against Kelly, it was a landmark moment for the justice system. For decades, powerful men like him seemed untouchable, shielded by money, fame, and fear. But this verdict proved even the so-called king of R&B could be held accountable. And the feds weren't finished. Next up was Chicago, where the 2022 trial dragged his past back into the spotlight, especially the scandal that once got him acquitted in 2008. This time, the outcome would be very different. The second trial kicked off in August 2022, this time zeroing in on child pornography and obstruction charges tied to that infamous 2002 tape and other related acts. But here's the game changer.
I know you say he became extremely controlling.
Yes.
How so?
I had to wear sweatpants. I had to stand up when he would walk in a room. He would put a lot of his girlfriends on his phone plan so he can control like who you're talking to, how often you talk to your family, what you're texting, things.
Jane, the girl from the video, finally took the stand. She identified herself as the victim and gave the testimony that was missing back in 2008. Her voice filled the gap that once let Kelly walk free. Prosecutors laid out damning evidence showing Kelly and his crew scrambling to recover incriminating tapes and pressuring witnesses to stay silent, proving a clear pattern of obstruction. On September 14, 2022, the hammer came down. Kelly was convicted on 6 of 13 counts, 3 for producing child pornography and 3 for enticement of minors. He was acquitted on 7 counts, including conspiracy to obstruct justice. But the guilty verdicts were enough to lock decades onto his sentence. Sentencing was brutal. On June 29, 2022, Judge Ann Donnelly hit him with 30 years for the New York convictions, citing his decades of abuse and total lack of remorse. She said flat out that Kelly posed an ongoing danger to society. Then, in February 2023, Judge Harry Leinenweber tacked on another 20 years for the Chicago case, with 19 to run concurrent, but still adding an extra year overall. Along with lifetime supervision, massive fines, and restitution, the message was clear: Kelly's not getting out. And appeals? They crumbled fast. In June 2023, the Second U.S. Circuit upheld the New York conviction. By April 2024, the Seventh Circuit rejected his Chicago appeal, brushing off arguments about statutes of limitation. Kelly's last shot, a petition to the U.S. Supreme Court, was denied in July 2025. With that, every legal door slammed shut, leaving him locked into a future that almost guarantees he'll die in federal custody. What makes R.Kelly's downfall so significant isn't just the convictions.
Significant outcome for all victims of R.Kelly, and especially for the survivors who so bravely testified.
It's how his cases reshaped the justice system's entire approach to celebrity crime. For years, fame and fortune kept stars untouchable, but Kelly's prosecutions proved that shield can be ripped away. His trials marked a turning point, showing prosecutors how to weaponize RICO and trafficking laws against entertainers who abuse their power. A shift fueled by the hashtag #MeToo movement and exposés like Surviving R. Kelly. The ripple effect has been massive. Prosecutors now feel emboldened to go after other high-profile figures the same way, rewriting the rules of celebrity accountability. The message is loud and clear: fame and money won't keep you safe forever. Financially, the collapse has been just as brutal. Kelly's once thriving music empire, worth millions a year, has been stripped bare. Royalties are seized, assets liquidated, and over $10 million in restitution is flowing to his victims. The empire he built off exploitation is literally being dismantled to rebuild the lives of those he harmed. And the victims aren't done. As of February 2025, they filed lawsuits to enforce an unpaid $10.3 million judgment, making sure every last penny is collected. This isn't just one man's fall from grace. It's a template for how the system now moves against powerful abusers. Kelly went from king of R&B to federal inmate number 90,888, and his story proves that cultural influence and chart-topping hits can't erase accountability. The streets whispered about Kelly for years, but now the courts have officially confirmed what people already suspected. The legend was built on lies, and justice finally caught up. And that's the dark truth behind R. Kelly's rise and fall. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, don't forget to smash that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, hit subscribe for more deep dives, and I'll catch you in the next one.